I borrowed some money and opened up this gym about 21 years ago.
Wow.
And so the challenge with me at this time was that, what I was taught at BYU was all about restriction. Calories in, calories out. And that was the foundation of what I learned at BYU in terms of, how to get people to lose weight or to get healthy. And it was all about calorie intake, right? And it was just a mathematical equation. If they worked their butt off in the gym and restricted their caloric intake, they're going to have success. Well, as I saw, just from a standpoint of my clients, it wasn't working, right? They'd lose weight, they'd put it right back on. They'd lose weight if they had some kind of event that we were pushing towards, they'd lose weight. Once the event was over, weight came right back on again, right? Okay, something's wrong here, right? This can't be the answer, right? And so, and actually a guy about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, from Salt Lake came down, and I was kind of getting into a process called intuitive eating, and it's really kind of an eating disorder kind of Bible on how to not look at calories and restriction as the foundation of our eating habits, but really to try to be more intuitive around those that don't count, track, and measure things, just try to listen to our bodies as we're eating. So I was really kind of getting into that. And as I was doing that, this guy comes up from Salt Lake and says, hey, I'm trying this new program out where we're feeding our clients 80% fat, 15% or so protein and 5% carbohydrate. I'm like, what the crap are you talking about? I can't. That sounds like Atkins diet. I'm not feeding my clients fat. They're all going to die of heart disease, right? And I'm thinking, holy crap, what's going on here? I mean, he was showing his results in terms of diabetic reversal, about triglyceride reversal. I mean, he was showing me, 400 or 500 on the triglyceride, and in 90 days it was down to like 60 or 70. I'm thinking, what? There's no way. There's not a medicine on planet Earth that can do that. And he's saying, I'm just telling you, this is, what's happening. And so I started to reduce my clients' carbohydrate intake, and I started to add more fat to their diet. No processed, no man-made fats of any kind, no canola oil. I knew that pretty much then, What really kind of changed the momentum, though, was when I was reintroduced to Dr. Bickman. Ben was actually an undergraduate student here at Elevate when he was doing his undergraduate degree at BYU, and he came in, and so we became friends because I was the owner here, and so he was a student here for 90 days or whatever he had to do it, and I just loved him, and we became friends. Well, once he left my gym, he went off and got his master's, his PhD, and went off somewhere else, and so I went to BYU to listen to him speak, and there was Ben. And I'm like, Ben, what the hell are you doing here, man? And he says, well, I'm the one that invited him over here. I'm like, dude, are you in this low carb space? Are you in the keto space? And he says, yes, this is all I've been doing my research on. I've been doing this for a couple years and seeing success. I had no idea the role insulin played at all, zero. I just knew if I brought people's carbohydrate load down and if I got them more fat, they seemed to lose weight and get better. I knew why, because I was reading The Art and Science of Low Carb Living. That was really the Bible that I was looking at, and so I knew some of the basics, right? But they really didn't talk about insulin that much. So Ben and I just started chatting, and I started to look at his research on insulin and insulin resistance, but I really didn't know that was the foundation of most of our diseases, right? I mean, Dr. Bickman we have something on our website on Insulin IQ. We call it the Wheel of Death. You have heart disease, PCOS, fatty liver disease, obesity, Alzheimer's, dementia, heart disease, blah, blah, cancer, in some way or another, insulin resistance has got its tentacles in just about every disease that we know of, And it is, and some of those diseases like PCOS, type 2 diabetes, it is the main driver of that disease, right? And so as I started to learn that, then Ben and I started to think, well, how can we get this message out to more people? And that's when we came up with a company called Insulin IQ. And it made sense because we really wanted to focus on insulin. And that's one thing that we focus on here at my gym here at Elevate and Insulin IQ is that we don't talk about weight. Weight's not really in any of our topics. We don't care about what people weigh. We don't care about how much people lose. Our role is, let's really control carbohydrates. Let's prioritize protein, and let's fill with fats. Well, when I first learned this stuff back in the day, it was, hey, 80% of your diet needs to be from fat. So I had clients eating butter and drinking freaking MCT oil and crap, and they were getting better metabolically, but they weren't losing any weight because they were just eating so much freaking fat. And then Ben, as he got involved, he says, Rich, listen, we've got to increase the protein. They're just not getting enough protein, right? And for the most part, our clients now, for most women, they're around 100 grams, most men about 150 grams. And so we really prioritize protein, and we kind of use fat as that kind of lever. If you feel like you're not being satiated, add more fat. Throw an avocado onto your meal. If you feel really satiated, don't add any more fat to it, right? And so we really kind of prioritize protein now more than we ever have. And they understand through our website that the carbohydrates food isn't the only thing that controls insulin. Cortisol, stress, all that stuff, sleep patterns, exercise, there's lots of things that impact insulin, but obviously food is the most prevalent in that. So we talk about controlling carbohydrates. Number 2 is we talk about intermittent fasting. Now, when we first started this, I didn't know anything about fasting, right? Then I started to listen to Jason Fung. In fact, most of my clients that are really good at intermittent fasting and not so good at controlling carbohydrates have more success than the people that aren't as good with intermittent fasting but have better control of their carbs. The intermittent fasting really is key. Well, I think because they're just simply, going for 18 hours without any response to insulin at all. The body just clears that sugar out when it comes in, and they're just become so fat adapted and so efficient. I encourage my clients to do both. Obviously, I think it's better to do both. But some of my clients just really struggle with really being, tight on their carbohydrates. And again, we don't really push that. They asked me how many grams of carbohydrates they should have a day, and I said, usually it's 25 a day is kind of the standard answer. But we don't track that. So, they're getting obviously most of their carbs from vegetables and stuff. Really warn people about keto movement in like Costco. You can walk into Costco, and there's 50 products that say keto on it, and 98% of them are crap. And I tell my clients, listen, this is not probably very good monetary, business that I'm running here, but we want these people to do it on their freaking own, right? We don't want them to ever again go back into some stupid diet, right? Or to look at some stupid supplement online that's going to help them lose weight, or some, multi-level marketing thing that's going to help them lose weight. We just want them to never have to do that again, and to understand, listen, this is my decision, right? Is it going to be hard to control my carbohydrate intake long term? Oh yeah, it is. Is it worth it? Well, yeah. Well, Rich, how are they going to do this long term? Well, I don't know. Let's help them figure it out. Because if they don't figure it out, they're going to die. Yeah. They're going to die a morbidly obese, diabetic death. So let's figure it out. Yeah. Whatever it is, let's do it. Yeah. And so we help our clients understand that, hey, listen, once they get done with our 90-day program, we want them to do this on their own. To have the understanding, the knowledge, the tools to know, hey, listen, I'm not going to be perfect at this. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to get so OCD about tracking every calorie, because that's just silliness. The math doesn't work, right? Just learn how to listen and be consistent at controlling carbs, fasting, and then number 3 is you've got to exercise. You just have to. And I own a gym, and it's an important part of my life. I exercise a lot, but I don't exercise to reduce my caloric load. I exercise to control insulin. I also exercise to connect with my friends and my family, my wife and stuff, but ultimately from a physiological standpoint, I exercise to control insulin. It has nothing to do with calorie counting or restriction of calories or reduction of calories. Right. Don't even think about it. According to Dr. Bickman and most of the scientists that I listen to, strength training is the ultimate reducer of insulin. You've got to strength train. High intensity interval training is probably the best thing. That's what I did today on my workout. I did some lifting, and then I went over and did a really hard 5-minute, cardio burst where my heart rate was at, 95%. I was just flying. And then, I let my heart rate come back down for a couple minutes, did a couple more upper body stuff, and then went back and did some more cardio. I did that about 6 or 7 times, and that was my workout for the day. But I also do a lot of endurance racing too. I've done lots of Ironman races, 100-mile runs. And so actually the real reason I got into the keto movement per se was because my first 100-mile run, I did the Wasatch 100 here locally, and I bonked about mile 70. And then I started to listen to some ultra endurance athletes that were doing low carb and keto. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that makes sense. They're talking about fat adaptation and just running on your body fat instead of having to put things in your stomach and getting stomach issues and stuff. And so I trained that way really before I ever introduced anything into my clinic. I did it personally for myself, and so I started eating low carb personally. And Zach Bitter was one of my heroes, and he was doing it big time, and it just worked for me. So I did it a couple years later, and I just smoked it. I was eating avocados and hard-boiled eggs at the aid stations instead of goos and sugary crap, and I just crushed it. I was going on fasted 25-mile runs in the morning with no food, and it really was almost no water. I mean, it was crazy. My water intake dropped, my food intake dropped, I mean, I was fasting. I wasn't eating anything. I was doing a little bit of electrolytes and stuff during the run. It was my water. But it was just crazy. I felt like I could run forever. Just look at COVID right now, right? You look on the people that I follow are saying, hey, yeah, okay, vaccinations are fine, but if you think the government's going to cure this, you're wrong.
Definitely.
You know, you got to take care of your bodies.
Right.
And they're getting hammered by it. You know, I mean, we're seeing it. If you're not metabolically sick, you're not dying from this thing, for the most part, right? And so I tell my clients to listen. This is just not about, you know, I mean, it is about longevity, but it's about now. Yeah. He comes to me. He was very, very successful financially. Very stressful job. I mean, high stress. I mean, big money. And I mean, you could just tell you could tell his weight. I mean, he first came in, I'm just like, oh, dude, you don't look good, man. And I mean, he was in, you know, in New York. And he's all over the world. You know, I'm not even sure what the transactions he was doing financially, but I mean, I could just tell it was super high stress. Caused him to get diabetes, put on 50 pounds of fat. Just was sick. I mean, he's constantly, you know, drinking Coke in the morning, just anything to keep him up, you know, Monster drinks, and his diet was awful. And so he finally came back to Utah, and he just came in and said, Rich, you know, I talked to a doctor, and he just said, hey, listen, you have type 2 diabetes. We're gonna put you on metformin, and then we're gonna put you on, you know, some other stuff, you know, some blood pressure medication, and blah blah blah. And he just said, Rich, it all made me sick. And I'm like, is there a different way? He says, no, I mean, you've got type 2 diabetes, we got to medicate it. You know, this is the treatment. And he was so discouraged by it, and one of his buddies said, hey, why don't you go talk to Dr. Barry, you know, Steve Barry. And so he made an appointment with Steve, and Steve says, hey, listen, do you want to take these meds? And he says, no, I don't want these meds. He says, go see Rich over at Insulin IQ. In 90 days, you'll be off all this med. He says, what are you talking about? I'll be off my metformin. My blood pressure medication says this, in 90 days, you basically won't be a diabetic anymore. Right. And he just like, well, this can't be true. Because they told me at the other office, when he met with a diabetic specialist, that this was a lifetime disease. And they even encouraged him to eat carbs. I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be mean to anybody, but that's just crap. Yeah. You know? And so after 90 days, off his blood pressure medication, off his metformin, A1C's normal with no medication, he's completely diabetic free. Lost about 50 pounds. He's a different person. I mean, you wouldn't recognize him the first day he walked into 90 days. And the cool thing is, he's ready to go on his own now. He has all the tools. He has all the information he needs. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not. But you know what? He understands the foundation of why he's getting sick. Yeah. And it's not about calories. The nice thing about it, though, I think is, and we all struggle with addiction in some way or another. Right. But the neat thing about this is that at least now he has a foundation that, you know what, I may have a couple bad days, but you know what, I'm going to get back on track and I'm good to go. Because really, you know, what we're looking at is not completely eliminated insulin, just the chronic levels of high insulin, right? I tell my clients all the time, I'm addicted to sushi. I'm having sushi, man. I mean, once in a while, I'm having it. Is it going to elevate my insulin? Yes, and I don't care. Because I love sushi, right? Once a month, my boys and I go out and I have 2 or 3 rolls, man. I didn't like a little tiny, I'm having the full Monty, right? And does my elevate spike? It does, right? But I'm so fat adapted now that my body just knows what to do with it and gets rid of it, right? I'm right back on track. The next morning, I'll fast until 2 o'clock, and I've got ketones in my system again by 2 o'clock. I can still enjoy the things I like and still have a very controlled insulin diet. And not ever have to worry about the dietary crap anymore, about counting or tracking or anything. I just ignore everything on TV, and my clients ignore it, and it's just free. It's freedom, because they don't ever have to pay another dime again the rest of their freaking lives to the dietary industry. Right. They just know what to do now, and it's simply about controlling insulin and lots of facets. They got to sleep better, they got to strength train, they got to exercise, they've got to control carbs fast. I mean, if they'll just do that, the longevity in that is crazy. I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day with Peter Attia. Oh yeah. I love Peter Attia. And he was talking about longevity, and he was talking about insulin resistance and about the exercise and so forth. He says, the bottom line is, if we want longevity, we have to exercise. You've got to be active. You've got to take that hour a day for yourself and go do it. And it's tough. BYU volleyball coach came in, and he was training for the Moab 200, a 200-mile run. After 100 miles, my feet are so bloody and blistered and hammered, mean, there's just no way. He's an amazing guy, amazing athlete. Of course, the BYU volleyball team is awesome. And so I don't think Sean would care, but Sean was just, and he knew Ben from BYU. So he came in there, started the program, and it just changed the way he trained. I mean, if you're going to be an endurance athlete, this is the way to go. I mean, period. Yeah. I mean, if you're not going low carb, it's just silliness. Because it's like cheating. I mean, it's just, I was waking up in the morning doing 25-mile runs with no food and feeling amazing. I had to have a little electrolytes and that's it. So they were eating coconut and fish and until the Western diet came into their lifestyle, then that ruined everything. Right. As a strength athlete, I probably wouldn't do it long term, but in short bouts, it's awesome. And I know one of the main trainers up in Salt Lake, MMA, puts his athletes all on ketogenic diets. Yeah. Really? Yeah, and I'm sure there's some carb cycling there. I'm guessing in some of his training stuff. Because they're actually going to want high levels of insulin at points. Because insulin also makes muscle grow. That's why bodybuilders inject insulin. Because insulin makes everything big. Fat, muscle, everything. I mean, most of my clients that we see here are really sick. I do get guys that come in here that are ready to work out hard, as they do the program. And I warn them. I said, listen, this is going to feel weird for a little while. Because you're not going to have the glucose in your system to make you feel good. So you're going to feel a little lethargic. You're going to feel a little tired. You're going to feel a little weak, a little off. It just takes a little bit of time to kind of fine tune this. But once you get it, it's awesome. It took me a couple months, actually, to really feel like I was back to where my normal self, right? Because I remember when I first started doing this, I couldn't run 4 or 5 miles. I'm thinking, this sucks. This is awful. And then, boy, once you start to kick in, though, man, you just feel, your energy levels are just spot on all day long. Yeah. I just felt lean and healthy, and I just felt powerful. I felt really strong. Most of the studies now that they've done shows that eating a ketogenic diet is completely appropriate still. Even at high levels of intensity, you can still be a fat burner. Like I do a race called Loaded Jaw. The first 100 miles of the race, because everybody else that I'm racing with is just just loaded up on carbs. I actually have a little bit of trouble keeping up with them initially because they're at a higher level. I've got to stay down on my 70-80% max heart rate. I can't go above that. I try to stay there. And so at the halfway mark, at the 100-mile mark, I'm a little bit fatigued, and because they're hammering it up these hills. But the next 100 miles, they're all drafting off me the rest of the way because I'm just getting warmed up, right? Now that's my time. They're behind me drafting the whole way because I'm just getting, my metabolism is just starting to get fine-tuned. And then at the 100-mile mark, I'll have like a hamburger or I'll have some carbs, like some fruit. And that's just like turbo boost, man. It's like, because now I'm ready to go. Yeah, and a lot of my clients will a lot of them will naturally kind of transition over to like a paleo type of lifestyle long term. They'll add more fruit to their diet as they go, which I think is fine. I don't like paleo in terms of if you're looking to fix the metabolic dysfunction, paleo is not the way to go. Right. It's not. Mediterranean is not the way to go. It's just not, right? There's too much sugar involved, too many carbs. Right. And remember, carb is a carb. Whatever it is, it's all sugar, right? And the body's going to respond, insulin's going to respond. If insulin's elevated, it's bad, right? And so those diets are not good to fix the problem. But once you fix the problem, I have no problem my clients doing a little bit. In fact, I really eat a strict keto diet from about November to about May. But once March hits, I'm eating fruit. When it's in season, I'm eating it. Well, it's interesting. My clients are, after the holiday's been over, they're really seeing a lot of success right now. In fact, typically my clients see the most success from about December to about April, May. I can't help but believe that it's just a natural process. The body said, hey, listen, it's wintertime. We need to start burning fat. I love fruit. I don't ever drink it. I eat it, fresh. Right. But I love corn on the cob like crazy, man. So I'm having corn on the cob when it's fresh. It's fresh, but I'm eating it, man. Lots of butter on it, so it's a little bit keto. But and some of my clients that want to add a little more carbs, some of my clients will eat 50 to 100 grams of carbs a day, right? And that's still considered low carb, but they'll eat, sweet potatoes and some other things, as part of that, add a little more fruit into their diet. So, if I've got an athlete that wants to lift, they're going to eat 100 grams of carbs a day. They don't need to eat 25, right? Yeah. But if you're metabolically sick and type 2 diabetic, You're not eating 100 grams of carbs a day.
Right.
That's not happening.
Right.
Yeah, you got to get under 20 or you're not going to get better. We have a pretty accurate in-body. I mean, it's not as accurate like if you went to BYU and did the bod pod or DEXA scan at the hospital. Those are more accurate, but it's pretty inaccurate. And ultimately what we're looking at is visceral fat. I mean, obviously we care about muscle mass and body fat percentage, but really ultimately visceral fat is the longevity tool right there. I mean, you've just got to get your visceral fat down. And visceral fat is that fat in your visceral cavity right here. It just got to, if you ever get on an in-body, it needs to be below 10. And if it's below 10, you're in pretty good shape. If you have a lot of weight in your tummy and in the visceral cavity, you probably already have diabetes, even though you haven't been diagnosed, because diabetes has been diagnosed about 10 years too late. That's been proven. So, just because your A1C is normal doesn't mean jack, because diabetes is not a glucose disorder. Right. It's an insulin disorder. It's an insulin dysfunction.
It's made that clear.
Yeah, very clear. You're going to get, fatty liver disease, right? You're probably going to get heart disease. Alzheimer's dementia is coming next. That's type 3 diabetes, they're calling it now. So you just, visceral fat is really, and so when that starts dropping, my clients get super excited. And I can't ever stop them from looking at weight, but they'll really get pumped when their visceral fat starts to drop, because then that's when they know, I'm getting healthy. Yeah. I own a gym called Elevate here in Orem, and it's on 147 West, 400 North in Orem, and we've been here for 20-some years, 22 years now, and it's awesome. We've got phenomenal personal trainers. I've got a full-time physical therapist, a full-time chiropractor, massage therapist. We do the Instant IQ coaching here. We have about 6 coaches here that do the Instant IQ coaching. We have doctors all over the valley that refer to us, and we have a pretty darn good program, man. It's a 90-day program. We walk them through. Dr. Bickman has put together for us a 12-week program that we walk them through, and they learn. They start right off the beginning and learn, okay, what is insulin? What the heck is it? And why should I care? To addiction behavior, to intuitive eating, to exercise, to how do I do this long term? What does this look like for me long term? How do I eat this way with my family, with my kids? So we just walk over every little concept, and by the time they're done with the 90-day program, they can be pretty darn smart. And we give them lots of tools. We use the Diet Doctor app, which is a phenomenal app. Our coaches are phenomenal. We can coach anybody in the world. I got clients in Amman, Jordan, Puerto Rico, Canada, all over the world. And so we coach them all over the world. And we also coach here privately, one-on-one. Go on to instantiq.com and you can do either with me. If you're here local in Utah County, you can do a Zoom call with me privately. And I'll just explain the program to you. If you're anywhere outside Utah County, it'll go to Debbie, who's our coach for Instant IQ, one of the coaches, and then she'll walk through the program. But it's super affordable. Our group classes are amazing. Private's great. It's so funny because we used to think about all the naysayers in terms of keto itself, but now we've got to fight against all the people that are doing keto, doing it wrong. We really don't call this a ketogenic diet. We call it an instant controlled diet.
Yeah.
That'll last long term. Keto will come and go, like everything else.